Today we're talking about the Midwest Industries Alpha stock. Now this is a new arrival, as I alluded to earlier in the week, but it makes sense to cover it now because I've got several projects they're going to use the Alpha stock. So it makes sense to have a reference video, and you guys are really good about this. By the time I get around to answering comments about, hey, what stock is that, man? Most of y'all have filled in the blank by then, so I appreciate you very much. That said, if I just took an image and threw it up on screen, you would be able to identify many of the features present in the stock. In fact, we're going to do that. We're going to have a little bit of an experiment. So if you see something, pause the video, sound off now, let me know what it is that you identified on this thing. But in addition to that, this thing has some great attention to detail that quite simply makes me happy. And I think you guys will be pleased with this. So to hop into it, this comes in two variants, the fixed beam and the telescoping variant. This is obviously the telescoping variant. If I push in on this button right here, it activates it, and you'll see that the button slides with the opposable section. That's important so that you're not pushing a release all the way up here and your stock's all the way back there. You can activate it with one hand. It does click into position when it's set so that you know that you're in position. It is aggressively knurled on the button, so it's really easy to get a good purchase on it. And that telescoping feature expands out to far more than I believe is necessary, even for a giant. As you can see, we've got an excessive amount of length of pull there, depending on your size. I think it's going to fit you. That said, if we look at other adjustable features, here at the back end, we have an adjustable plate. That plate has 5 points of adjustment as far as the height of the butt plate, and it is fixed with a rubber butt pad. While rubber butt pads do reduce recoil, their prime function is not recoil reduction. It is for the purposes of taking weight out of the hand by coupling it to your shoulder. Speaking of index points, the adjustable cheek height here. This is the only part of the stock that is made of polymer, and I believe that that is correct, because if you've got something that is made out of metal right up against your face, you're going to have a lot of thermal conductance. The polymer takes the edge off on that a little bit. It appears at first glance that there are 4 points of adjustment on this, but it's actually better than that because those 4 holes do not line up, which means that you have smaller increments of adjustment than just those 4 points. Now, if we were speaking anecdotally about cheek height, this is currently set up on an AK for the AK height iron sights, and this position that you can see right there is perfect. However, we will also be testing out the new hinged dust cover from Midwest Industries that'll allow you to add a magnified optic and have it return to 0. We'll be testing that, and you can see that there's plenty of adjustability left in this stock to be able to reach up and get your face behind those magnified sights that are mounted on a high receiver like that. In my first look video short, some of you left comments about these bolts on the side for attachment of that cheek piece and being left-handed. And I think my favorite verbiage was something along the lines of, wow, those look fun. What I have to say about that is, when I was a kid, I learned a valuable lesson, and that is that life is hard. But it's even harder if you're wrong-handed. Fortunately for you, however, the people at Midwest Industries are freaking geniuses. And if you look here, that arm is held on with 2 bolts. It's very simple to take those bolts out, flip the whole thing upside down because it is actually symmetrical, and it allows you to change all of the controls to a left-handed usage. So the button goes over there, the dual external QD swivel studs go outboard, the single one on this side comes inboard. The bolts go outboard, and all it takes to flip that around as far as the stock is concerned is to take that out, flip it around. Now, as I mentioned, this is a stock. However, underneath of that has the functionality for integration of a tail hook brace, depending on how this whole thing goes down. Yeah, it's a little bit up in the air on that one. We're gonna have to see how that shakes out, but there are other accessories out there that use that geometry, so good forward thinking on Midwest part. If we go back to the folding functionality here at the front, it is, you could think about it 2 ways. It's either a grab it and push down with your thumb, or it is a pull up on the stock. If we do that, there's a knuckle that rolls over, and it is attached with a full bar claw and a antagonist claw there, so it's a solid lock up on the folding position. It does tentatively stay open, as you can see. With a little bit of pressure, it's going to return, and it will lock itself when thrown closed. If we talk about how it attaches to the firearm itself, we're talking about a Picatinny rail adapting stock here, and as far as that is concerned, again, full length claw all the way down on the block there, and a solid bolt that goes all the way through, which is exactly what we would expect out of a device that is going to be taking the abuses of the junction point between the human and the firearm. So good on Midwest for, I don't want to say over-engineering, properly engineering a stock like this. I had some freedom time yesterday, so I took this bad boy to the range to test it out. And what I would say about it is that it adds a very linear perspective to the stock. Usually when you talk about AK stocks, they drop away a little bit. And what that requires the shooter to do is to mount the rifle higher and higher. And what that translates to, at least for me, is that oftentimes the standard stock will bump my hearing protection off a little bit. And I'm definitely getting some hearing damage from that instantaneous breaking of the seal. I get the ringing in the ear. So a lot of times I end up going with something like an underfolder stock. The problem with an underfolder stock is it's really uncomfortable to shoot, very uncomfortable to index. The stock indexes very well. It also redistributes the weight improperly in the firearm, so you end up with a firearm that recoils kind of like this. This gun recoils straight back into the shoulder, and all I can say about this is very well done, Midwest Industries. So currently, this is going into our 8K project, but I also have a few other ones that are going to be using the Picatinny rail-mounted stock that doesn't require a buffer tube or anything like that, so be looking out for those. And that's all for the Midwest Industries Alpha stock. I want to know what you guys think in the comment section down below.